Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. This is Monday, November 4th. Jake, college basketball season is upon us. We will be back in 24 hours of college football show. So the screen you're seeing there is our college football recap because it's really all I could figure out to put here. But today we are talking college basketball, a 24-hour reprieve from college football. Jake, I know you are a kid on Christmas Eve at this point.
Yeah, I mean, as you can tell with the Christmas tree behind me here, this is just my favorite time of the year when college basketball starts. It's got one of the best starts to any season. You have just games starting from I think noon or 11 a.m. and just going through tomorrow. I wish they'd bring back the 24 hours plus of college basketball.
Yeah.
Amazing, but
yeah.
And then
some random game at 9 a.m. in Maine or something. He's kicking his off is always great.
Give it to me. But then the Sun Belt and the MAC, this challenge they've started, started last year, I think, or maybe the year before. But that's where most of the competitive games are on this opening game, and it's a lot of fun because those games have real meanings because they make a big difference come seeding time and all that. And those two conferences. Props to you for putting that together to start the year every year.
Yeah, absolutely. If my math is correct here, 114 games. So it'll feel a little bit like a Saturday with regards to the number of games. Unfortunately, they are mostly bulked up at night. There are a few in the late afternoon, at least to get us going. We're going to talk about one of those afternoon games. The main thing I think that I'm interested about is to see really how the model starts off the season. Last year, the model started off really well, day one aside. And you and I were talking about that before we came on here to record, actually, that it had to do with a lot of the favorites did really well on opening night last year. And the model, it's pretty 50-50. It kind of leans a little bit more underdog than favorite. And we had a lot of big dogs last night. And if you take the big dogs out, it did great. It did great with totals. But the big favorites really had their way with the weaker teams here on opening night. And that's what makes this early part of the college basketball season, I think, interesting, is that you do have a lot of unknown, a lot of uncertainties. And there's a lot of people who I hear say things like, they don't like to bet, early on in any season. But I always like to remind people that the same uncertainty that we have, the books have as well. And that's going to lead to some really mispriced lines if we can figure out those discrepancies. The early part of the college basketball season has been among our most profitable in the last several many years. And so we were kind of talking about that a little bit, this time, like, hey, maybe let's stay away from some of those bigger dogs here on night one. Doesn't mean that all the favorites will cover again, but maybe let's just lay it or pass on some of these. I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to say about that before we got into it.
Well, I mean, the bigger favorites covering makes sense to me from that standpoint because you've been working 6-7 months. And I mean, these secret scrimmages that are now broadcast on national TV,
Right.
like that's your only chance to really see somebody in a different colored uniform. And who knows what you're actually trying to do there. That's the first time to really show off your new toys with NIL money and transfers and freshmen and all that. So I think that's where a lot of that comes from, is they're just ready, itching to go. And it's not so much pull back yet as you get in this game 2 or 3 when you're playing these cupcakes.
And starting to explore different rotation options and things like that. We're going to be a little bit more total focused. Also, because of that, here in the early season, the totals did really well last year. Our wrong team favored games did really well last year. Our top plays did really well last year. I have not aggregated all that. So again, the recap you can see there is for college football, which we will discuss here in 24 hours. We'll bring back Cousin Jared for the Week 11 college football show. So make sure you tune in for that as well. As you can see, we had a fantastic weekend in college football.
Absolutely.
Fantastic season in college football, just like we did last year as well. And so hopefully we can continue that here into the college basketball season. If you're interested in all of these picks for college basketball, for college football, for the NFL, you have the way to get that via the secret link in the show description. It's the only way you can get the old pricing before it goes away. The last chance of this offer is about a week from today. That link will get you the old pricing plus half off your first month. So check that out. We also have sport-specific packages, many of you are back now for the first time in a while because you're only interested in college basketball. Check out our Dub Club. You can get the sport-specific college basketball only package for a little bit of a cheaper price, and then access to our college basketball Discord chat as well. Not the other channels, but just the college basketball one, where we will have still a lot of fun over there. So some interesting ways to join us over there on Dub Club and partake in all of the winning. Some quick reminders: we are dealing with a player-based model here. Um, early on in the season, and Jake, we were talking about this. Again, a lot of uncertainty for the books, a lot of uncertainty for us. The strength I think of the player-based model early in the season is that typically when the model is over, off high, maybe on one player, it might be a little bit under, a little bit low on other players. So it tends to balance out and do pretty well. But the benefit is with injuries, as those start to mount up, we will be able to reflect the current roster. As you see the grades on the screen, the average is 100 higher implies more points. So offenses want to be higher, defenses want to be lower. We are projecting an average game. One game, we do not know what's going to happen. We are going to get some weird results. We're going to remind you this throughout the season. You will see it. You will know, of course. We are going to be off by 40 points on some game randomly here and there. This is not about predicting what will happen in one game. It's about the long run. Today, we're going to have a little bit of a longer show because the opening day part of this, 100 games. And Jake, I hate nothing more than having 100 games on a Saturday, making 50 picks, coming on show here and picking 3 of them and picking, 3 stinkers, right? So we're going to try to do a little bit more tonight. But again, this is all about the long run, the large sample number of games. You get all the picks again over on Dub Club. We got a sample of them for you here today. But this model is what helps us stay profitable in the long run across all these sports. Again, we got ABC, Love, Like, Lean. For the grade that the model chooses that, we choose the plays. Let's get to it. We do have an afternoon game for you, 3 p.m. Eastern. I think this one will be an interesting contest. St. Louis and Santa Clara. These two teams, very decent, very respectable across everything except for, oh my goodness, does the model love the St. Louis offense. Other than that, these are just solid mid-major programs, but that St. Louis offense, the model is in love with, and that's why we've got St. Louis here at a neutral site game winning by an average of 9 points. According to the model, 79% of the time they would win, making the A-grade threshold easily cleared here. We're going to take St. Louis at plus 105 A-grade pick to kick us off, 3 p.m. Eastern. Jake, what do you like about backing the Billikens here in the afternoon?
I love the coach. Brought the shirts, something like that from Indiana State. He brought with him a couple of very, very good players with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and can't think of the guard name, but two of the top 3 scorers on that team came with him. The other guy went to Xavier, but he also grabbed in Kobe Johnson from West Virginia, who I think will be a real impact transfer. They're bringing back Gibson Jimerson, which is just one of the best names of college basketball, who is also a very, very good player. I think he will absolutely thrive in the offense that Schertz runs. I really think that's the difference. Is Santa Clara is one of the brings back. I mean, I think they're like top 10 in returning production, both offense and defense. But that wasn't the greatest production that they brought back. And I mean, they really struggled with turnovers. And if somebody knows something that I don't know, for some reason, coach is trying to play faster there, which is only going to expound the turnover issues because they turn the ball over a lot more than they force turnovers, and that's going to play right in the St. Louis hands. Josh Schertz, I mean, it's from Tennessee. It kills me that he's not somewhere in Tennessee coaching, but he is one of the best offensive minds out there, just not really given enough credit because the last 2 years his team in Indiana State finished the top 5 in effective field goal percentage. Last year they were the number 1 team. And even before that, he's made a real big improvement over what Indiana State was before he got there, and then has got that team built. I think he's really going to take that to St. Louis and just take a rural basketball school and make it something really, really powerful. I think they win this game very easy.
And that was the hallmark, of course, of the Indiana State teams last year was just how efficient, how good the offense was. And that's what we're expecting here at St. Louis. You mentioned the pace, of course, for Santa Clara. You can see that on screen. We've got them in the top 40 in projected pace here for the season. I'm not really sure that's going to help them, like you said, with the turnover, et cetera, or in this game. I think it will help them in 90% of their games, fairly weak schedule for the most part on the season, of course, other than the couple of, the Gonzaga and the St. Mary's, which play two very extremely different styles, which will be interesting. But if I recall, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but my impression of Santa Clara last year was just a very decent team, could hang in with some of the mediocre teams, but they kind of struggled when they went up against a team like a St. Mary's or a Gonzaga who could do something really well. And that's what it seems like they're going to have here against St. Louis. But against a team who can do something really well, and that stepping up in class might expose some of their weaknesses. That's at least the impression I was left with.
Yeah, people got real excited when they beat Oregon on that neutral floor, but then like a couple nights later, maybe the next week, they came out and just got demolished by Ohio State. So I think that really took the wind out of the sails, and that's how basically their season went. They had to show up 1 or 2 games, play great, and then the next 1 or 2 be just above a high school team. They were very yo-yo during the year.
Yeah. Yeah. This game, of course, being played at the Sanford Pentagon in South Dakota. We've got a handful of neutral site games there. So it should be, not really a huge crowd effect for either one of these teams. Not really a huge travel effect, as both teams are having to travel a little bit of a distance. So no home field of any nature in that regard. But again, we're going to start off here with the A grade play on St. Louis plus 105. You can get even money, slight minus odds. Doesn't really matter. The model loves all of it, of course. Shop around for the best price possible. We're going to say this early and often throughout the season. There's a lot of college basketball picks. And of course, if we can just save a nickel on every single one of them, that's going to do a lot for us. We don't shop around for the best price. We expect you to do that because we don't necessarily know what books everyone has access to. But if you don't have access to them yet, BetUS is a great book to add to your repertoire. You can sign up today and get 150% bonus on your first ever deposit, 125% on your second and third. So check out BetUS if you have not yet. Texas A&M and Central Florida will take us to the night slate, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to go to the totals market here and go over our 145. Sideline projects 147, so a small edge, only a B grade, not an A grade. Most of the picks that we'll have here today for your A grades, only a small edge here, but one worth taking. Jake, why, even though this is a small edge, why do you like this over?
I like what's coming back for both teams. I know UCF only brought back 4 players total, but they brought back both their leading scorers really from the outstanding backcourt that really showed up. Really good shooters, 3-level scorers. Brought in some decent transfers. Dawkins has taken a risk with 3 or 4 of these guys that were in some trouble, kicked off some teams, left some teams in weird spots, and showed up on his roster. One of those being Mikey Williams, who was supposed to be an all-world freshman, never played at Memphis. So we'll see if he's still got it. Texas A&M is they've got a dominant defense, very, very good defense, and Buzz is an incredible defensive coach, but that offense can really get moving. I mean, at the end of last year, you saw what it was doing. They were beat up. Coleman is a big piece of that. He's healthy. Wade Taylor, I'm not sure that there's a spot on the floor in any arena that you can't guard him because he's unreal. He's got a walk in the gym range, and he's clutch too, makes all the big plays. He really drives that defense. I know, like with the pace, Texas A&M wants to play slow, but that offense gets so efficient. And they hit so many threes when they're on this. If they're on, I think this game flies over. If they're not, I think UCF can pull them up to getting this over, especially with the first game. I think we're going to see a little more points and a little faster pace than what you're going to see in rest of the season from every team. Plus, refs getting used to it. Fouls, both teams are very good foul shooting teams. I just think that this game is going to be a lot of fun to watch, one of the more entertaining ones out there because of how well these offenses are going to play.
According to Sideline, the 4th most fun game of the day, and by fun I just mean some combination of how good the teams are, how close the game is expected to be, and then how many points we're expected to see. We're going to talk about this a lot over the course of the season. If you were with us last year, we talked about it a lot, that the better teams tended to score more points last year, that there was a real skewness, a real shift there, and that the weaker teams tended to be lower scoring. The books didn't really seem to catch on that was just a general principle that if you kind of blind back to that trend, you could bet totals, in the mid 50%. And that was one of the things that fueled our success, was the model kind of realizing that something to do with the extra year from COVID, the extra year from the NIL money, whatever it may be, that the better schools offensively were more talented than in years past, and they were able to score more points. It had nothing to do with pace, just had to do with how good the offenses are. And that's kind of one of the things you're going to hear us say a lot. Same thing here, like you said, yeah, A&M wants to play slow. They have a great defense, but it's not like their offense is nothing. And when you get to these bigger schools that have more talent, the offense just tends to tick up just a notch from what we've seen in years past. And so we're expecting that trend to continue. We don't see any reason why it would change. In this one, I know you mentioned the kid from UCF. I remember last year, I think there was discussion transferring mid-season would even be eligible in the middle of the season and whatnot. And that never panned out, but there's a lot of interesting pieces there at UCF. They should be an interesting team to follow here, but we're going to go over 145, expecting that there might be a little bit of value here on the over. That again, while A&M does want to play slow, we typically see more of that in conference play. While the offenses might not be quite as efficient on day one, the overall pace tends to balance that out for us. Like you said, a little bit more up and down here in the non-conference slate early on, and that the overall talent of these offenses can get us to in the mid 140s, maybe to 150 in that ballpark, which gives us again slight value in the over 145. St. Peter's and Seton Hall. Jake, I wanted to include this one here. First off, one of our top plays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, one of the ones you like the most. We're going to go under, and I wanted to include it just to show people that we do go under on some games. We tend to, as we were just talking about, we tend to go more under on these smaller schools where that extra year of offense hasn't really helped them develop into quite as good offensively, quite as good as shooting, et cetera. Those players then tend to transfer up to the bigger schools. But what it does do is these smaller schools, they tend to play a little bit harder on defense, and it tends to keep the scores a little bit lower. Not always the case, though. Here, St. Peter's, of course, a school that everyone remembers from their March Madness run of recent. Seton Hall, obviously a big name school, but a really good defense from Seton Hall and St. Peter's, as they've been for the last several years. Much better on defense than offense. Not a lot of pace in this one. We're projecting only 127 points, so we've got an A grade, top play under 132. Jake, other than just the high level, right? Good defenses, slow pace. The books are kind of accounting for that, setting a number like 132. But what makes you look at it and go, yeah, they haven't gone under enough. They need to go even further than that, and they haven't got there yet.
Look, Seton Hall, Shaheen Holloway, that coach, he's incredible in defense. His offense is very slow, really just likes to work things around, and I'm not sure who on St. Peter's is going to score. Or I'm not really sure who's on Seton Hall is going to score. I just know that they're a little more talented than St. Peter's, so the options will be there. It's neither team has any desire to go fast. Even when they create the turnovers, they like to slow it down, take their time, use the entire shot clock when possible. And sometimes that's because of the other team's defense, and sometimes that's because their offense is just unique. I'm not a fan of what Seton Hall has right now. Early in the year, I don't see their guy anymore. You had Katari Richardson go to that was if he's on this team, totally different ball game. But he goes to St. John's for style more fits how he likes to play. And I think he left Seton Hall in the lurch a little bit. Not in any bad way. Just I don't think they replaced him. It's hard to replace. He's one of the top players in the nation. It's hard to replace his production. They didn't do that. St. Peter that's on the downhill slide. They made that run, a miracle run. They'll always have that, but I don't think that happens again for another few decades. It's just hard to get teams to go to a school that they share the. I think they still share their locker room with the local like YMCA gym.
Oh wow,
or something crazy like that. So it's just going to be hard to get the talent in, and I just don't see anybody scoring points really for him.
Yeah, and of course, this is the fun, like you said, the Coach Holloway facing the team that he led in that run with St. Peter's. There's a lot of the fun coaching carousel thing, right? Then when Seton Hall plays, wherever that coach went off to, I can't remember where, Rutgers maybe,
Maryland?
Maryland. There you
No,
go. Yeah,
Maryland.
yeah. I
Yep.
was like one of those random schools that's in the Big Ten but shouldn't be. When you get these games where it's like, this guy formerly coached at that school or whatever, but both of them still playing his same style of grind it out, good defense. We don't have to stress the offense, which again is kind of what you have to do a lot of times at these smaller schools. You think about a guy like Shaka Smart, made his name with VCU doing that same sort of thing because it's hard to get that offensive talent. What you can get is you can get guys who play sound fundamental defense. That's a little bit easier to come by. And so that's what, he did at St. Peter's. They're still doing that there. Seton Hall, even though it's a big step up, it's the same sort of thing. You're not getting the same guys at Seton Hall that are going to the places like Kentucky or Duke, et cetera. And so that same sort of style there, playing really good defense. We think both teams highlighting the defense, slowing down the pace. There's something to be said to a little bit of interaction effect of teams who want to play this grinded out game. It's like the academy sometimes in football when they play, right? It just turns into this really slow game. And so on average, we're expecting to hear. You never know, teams can get hot. Like we said, one game, anything can happen. But in general, we expect this to be more lower scoring, slower pace and faster. 132 is the number we're going under A grade play there. Missouri and Memphis. We're going to take Missouri here. Jake, my main question for you on this one, we're going to take plus 165. It's an A grade play, whether it's the spread or the money line, rather than taking the 4 points. These two teams are fairly evenly matched. Missouri's got a little bit better of an offense, but this game being in Memphis, this is going to make it pretty much a coin toss here for us overall. Why are you liking the money line, the plus 165, the bigger plus odds, rather than taking the 4 points? What is your reason behind leaning that direction than the other is my main question for you here.
I like the coaching. I like Dennis Gates a lot better. I think these teams are – when it was +4, like I was kind of shocked. I thought this would be 1, 2, something like that, because these teams are, like even you can see on the screen, really mirror images of each other. Memphis wants to play a lot faster, really being the only difference. They're very similar, talented at every level, at every position. I know Memphis brought in Tyrese Hunter. They probably have the edge at point guard there with him, and then Penny Hardaway. As much as I loved him as a player, Magic and all that, man, I don't know what's going on. He can't seem to get out of his own way with all the craziness going on. They fired like all their assistants. I haven't even seen who they really brought back in yet. About midway through the summer, so I'm not sure what and if anything how that affects. Penny has often struggled early and it comes in like saves his butt in a conference play. Dennis Gates, very good coach, very, very young coach. I was very impressed with him 2 years ago. Last year, I think he just didn't replace the talent. I think he's got a lot better talent than he did last year. And as long as they stay healthy, the Missouri team is going to be a very solid team and can make some noise in the SEC.
Almost one of our favorite type of plays, right? The wrong team favored. We call it the WTF games, right? Not quite there because the model still slightly leans Memphis and says that the home edge there will overcome the fact that Missouri is the better team slightly, and that we've got Memphis winning this 52% of the time, but pretty close to a coin toss. And that's the thing, of course, we'll talk a lot about this season, right? That we're not necessarily trying to predict what will happen at the game, but we're trying to figure out what prices make for good picks. And this is a situation where if you can get Missouri here plus 165, anything near that, of course, the model's threshold for the A grade. And this is available on Dub Club for every single game, all 100 and whatever of them that we have here on Monday is plus 149. So plus 150 or better marks that spot where the model looks at this and says, at plus 150, Missouri wins this close enough to half the time that it makes it a really smart bet. We liken it to going out to a casino on the roulette wheel and saying, hey, give me red, give me black, whatever, but plus 150. We'd all take that bet. And that's kind of what we're dealing with here. I think what you brought up at the coaching edge is really interesting, right? That you've got a coach you can more trust with Missouri, and that might make the difference here in the late part of the game. Give us that little extra oomph in a close game to win it. Mainly in contrast to Penny Hardaway, who I just cannot believe he still has a job there. And this is, again, nothing against him at all. Don't know anything about him as a person, never met the guy. But he was so close to being fired. And we've talked about this recently with college football, a couple schools that really on the verge of firing their coach, and then good things happen and they can't fire him. And what do you do? And that's kind of what happened at Memphis, where he was going to be fired. He was going to be fired. And they went on that run. And since that run, it still hasn't been that great. It's still been not quite living up to expectations. Now the assistant coach situation here that happened this season, you wonder if they're going to start off a little bit slow. You wonder if it's going to be a lot of the same situation. You wonder if he's going to make it through this season. He obviously can recruit some talent, but it just makes you wonder if he's a little bit over his head at a school like Memphis and would be better off at a smaller school, maybe as an assistant. We don't know. But it's definitely a storyline that feels like one we're going to be talking about all season here, one we've been talking about for multiple seasons. And so hopefully there's enough chaos there that we can get the dog to the window here with Missouri. If nothing else, again, one of these types of plays that we don't know what will happen in this one game, but in the long run, if in these pretty close to 50-50 games, we're constantly getting odds like plus 165, we win half of them, we're going to be making a lot of money. And that's what we're all about here. Moving on to the next one, Florida and South Florida, a neutral site game, giving Florida a little bit of a home edge, not much, just a tiny bit. This game's being played in Jacksonville. It's closer geographically to Florida. Florida's got a larger alumni base there. We expect more of a pro-Florida crowd. So giving them just a tiny bit of we expect a little bit more of a pro-Florida crowd here against South Florida. We've got Florida winning by an average of 12 points. B-grade pick, Florida minus 9.5. So again, most of the plays A grades. This one of the few B grades. What should be an interesting contest. South Florida, according to Sideline, top 100, but Florida with a top 10 defense, according to Sideline. We expect some good things from the Gators. Jake, tell us more.
Like, first off, my heart goes out to everybody with South Florida with their coach dying last week. That sucks. And I was real excited when I was looking at this game beforehand, before all that happened, because I was ready to back South Florida because I adore him. One of my favorite coaches, loved him at Kansas State. Thought he was going to do great things here at South Florida, and unfortunately, we don't get to see how that really turns out. But all that aside, Florida is a team that people are kind of sleeping on a bit. They are a little more talented than they're given credit for. I think they got the right coach in there with Golden. He's a defensive specialist, but they've got the offensive talent to really go up. And I'm very, very interested to see what the 7'9" kid does that they've got. I'm very, very interested to see what happens there, because it's just the videos coming out of it's like it's 80 on steroids. It's just the videos are just hilarious with him next to 7-foot guys, and it's just they look like kids. But I don't know where South Florida's heads will be at. I don't know how prepared they're going to be. I don't know if the assistant is ready to jump up and take the step to where they're at. It's a lot of question marks there. This might be a good one to take South Florida the first half. They may come out with their hair on fire, do really well, but I think it falls apart quick because Florida is a very, very good team, and they're not getting enough love in the national media for how talented they actually are.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a good point there. South Florida could come out and play really well, emotional, right? That can really help. It can really hurt. We really have no idea how that's going to affect. There's a lot of different ways, that something like this can impact the game. And so the idea is we kind of just have to stick to what are the players on the court. And that's what you said, when you've got some of the size advantage that Florida's going to have, it's going to be hard for South Florida really to match up against that. But it is, obviously a good time, to mention how sad it is, of course, the loss of Abdur-Rahim, and not only obviously as a person, his family, and those sort of things,
Yeah.
but just as a basketball coach, we always love to see good young coaches do well, and we like to see what sort of enjoyment they can bring and what sort of impact they can make in kids' lives and everything. And you see what you see what he did at Kennesaw State his first year there, 1-28, then 5-19, then all of a sudden 13-18 his last year, 26-9, getting into the NCAA tournament, and then jumping in South Florida in year one, 25-8, 16-2 in conference. I mean, you really had something brewing there, really, and what was a very promising career. And so it's again, obviously tragic on a lot of levels. And again, we have no idea exactly what will happen there, but just when you put that aside and you just say, yeah, that could really help, it could really hurt. Obviously, I'm expecting some sort of touching tribute before the game. The idea being that Florida defense, some of the talent that Florida has, really is going to be able to overwhelm South Florida at some point over the course of the 40 minutes. And they should be able to run away. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about. At least on night one, I'm kind of thinking more on these when you get to these, 10-ish is 9.5, 10-ish or more type spreads. I'm kind of thinking lay it or don't play it type situations because of what we saw last year on night one. Doesn't mean that every one of them will cover. It just means some of those dogs maybe just aren't worth messing with here on night one with what we saw then. And so again, we're going to lay it with Florida 9.5 B grade there at an 8:30 p.m. Eastern tip. Ohio State and Texas. Going to be a little bit later here, and these last three games that we've got, just like make my heart hurt for how late they start. 10 p.m. Eastern, of course. At least this will be a 7 p.m. local tip, a game in Las Vegas between Ohio State and Texas, and this is when it's fun. Of course, the second best game on the slate, according to Sideline. We'll cover the best one later on in the show. Two teams that right now look to be more middle tier in the tournament, but obviously have aspirations of making strong runs in the conference. We've seen good things from both programs, but a lot of question marks from both. Can they get back to those levels, or are they just going to be more middle of the pack in their respective conferences here this year? Don't know what's going to happen with regards to the side. Should be a good contest. Instead, we're going to take the over 147 as an A grade play. Sideline says the average game has 154 points. And this is one where, Jake, I'm curious your take on it, but I just look at it and I say both offenses better than the defenses at schools that are talented in basketball. We saw this last year a lot, and it tended to be games that went over by about 5 or 10 points. And that's what the model says on average we expect here. Not worried about the pace. The model's adjusting for that. But these offenses should have the edge over the defenses. What's your take?
Yeah. I really trust that both these offenses, both coaches lean the offensive route anyway with where their strengths are. And this game will just be a duel. It's going to be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It may not have the pace to really blow this total, but both these offenses are going to be good enough that there's going to be stretches where it's just every shot that's thrown up goes in. They are very good. I really like what Ohio State brought back with Thornton and bringing in Michi Johnson from South Carolina, who was just an all stud. Which wild, he started at Ohio State, goes to South Carolina, and now he's back to Ohio State. That's kind of wild, but they're going to welcome him back with open arms because he is going to be a stud. He's going to really help this team out, both offensively, defensively. I kind of lean their way to win this game. I think Ohio State's being they're not considering how good this Ohio State team is, but I think Texas is a very, very even match for them. And like I said, I think it's going to be a duel, and we're just going to be points from that standpoint.
We'll talk probably a lot about this as the season goes along. Many of you know my father is a Texas alum, and so he often has thoughts on this Texas basketball team. Rodney Terry in his second season already kind of on the hot seat after a very disappointing first official season, did really well as the interim, but a lot of questions about exactly his recruiting abilities, who he would be able to bring in, how that would go. Things didn't get off on the best foot. The Big 12, a gauntlet of a conference, even with Texas' departure, obviously, some would argue got better, with what they brought in, how they switched some schools out. We'll talk a lot about the Big 12 over the course of the season, but 9-9 last year in the Big 12. Things should get a little bit easier for them in the SEC, but that's going to be a storyline to follow there. Exactly, with the SEC, and we talk about this a lot in football, right? It kind of all depends on who you end up with on your schedule. I haven't looked at their exact schedule, right? But who you end up having to play twice, who you have to play once, that sort of thing, is going to be real interesting because there's some good teams there, but maybe not quite as difficult as the Big 12. But Ohio State's in the same boat. It seems like all the time here these last several years, where it's just haven't quite been able to get over the hump. So I think both schools are kind of in a really similar position. Maybe some optimism, maybe some pessimism, depending on exactly who you're talking to about each of them. And so again, should be a good contest. Not a game that's going to make or break either team's season, but a nice kind of statement win for whichever one is able to come out on top. We expect points, more efficiency than pace. Just like you said, a lot of buckets both ways. It's not like it'll be, the Kennesaw States right from last year. Some of those teams where it's just, back and forth quickly, as much as it'll just be a lot of efficiency. And so we're going to go over 147. Neutral site there in Las Vegas, 10 p.m. Eastern. At the same time, Chattanooga and USC are going to play. Another one that we like here, going to go over one of the 10 best games according to Sideline. USC, obviously decent enough last year, finished the season fairly strong, but Chattanooga, a top 100 team, a team that's been a little bit of a March darling at times here the past couple of seasons, doing it with the offense, as you can see there, ranked nicely number 69. Defense, though, not nice, not in the top 200. USC better on offense than defense. Sideline says the average game gets up to about 160. So this number being in the mid to low 150s gives us A grade value. Over 153.5 is the official play. Jake, we've long discussed a lot of the Chattanooga games over the last couple of seasons. A team we like to back a lot here of late, but not going to back them here, just going to go over. What's your take on this one?
I think you kind of nailed it. Chattanooga, no defense, all offense, all gas, no brakes kind of thing. They are talented, but coach really doesn't concentrate on defense. He doesn't recruit for defense, which is fine at this level because at the level of conference he's at, his defense is probably fairly average, and their offense is talented enough to be in some of the bigger conferences. So they'll do well there. This really comes down to them and Furman every year. But Southern Cal bringing in Muscle from Arkansas, which I'm still not sure I understand that move on his part, but he is constantly.
The weather's better.
Yeah, that's true. Always been like a high pressure, fast paced, offensive focused team, and that's exactly what he's going to get at USC. I'm not sure how he's going to replace the Bronny James production, but there's going to be gaps for him to fill with players there, but I still think even if the game's not close, it still has a really good chance of going over because of how Muslim likes to play. He's going to try to force a lot of turnovers. He's going to get some easy, quick buckets. There's going to be stretches where they go 8, 10, 12-0 runs and really kind of put Chattanooga away. That's just I think Chattanooga's offense is talented enough to push us over the edge here.
And we love teams that push the tempo, the pressure to try to get the turnovers, because that leads to a lot of quick buckets. Because when you go for those turnovers and that pressure, if you break it, it leads to quick buckets one way. If you get the turnover, a lot of times in the backcourt, it leads to quick buckets the other way, or at least quick shots. And so we like quick shots for these overs. It gives us more opportunities to get points quickly and then do it all over again. And so Chattanooga, not going to do much for us on the pace. What theirs is going to be is about good offense, again, a lack of defense. USC maybe not quite as extreme on that, but still a better offense than defense is what we're projecting. And like you said, a pace and a style of play that's going to lend itself more to higher scoring games. So over 153.5 A grade play there. And then wrapping us up, one of our top plays here on the day coming up to you in just a second. So hold there tight with me. Give me 30 seconds here, folks. If you've been with us on college football, you've been making a ton of money. If you're with us last year on college basketball, our free picks did really well. We would really appreciate you. If nothing else, you've got a picks only package on Dub Club. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles, only $19.99 a month. You can get your first month for only $10. You can get the full year for $99.99. If you've been making money with us, we really would appreciate your support over there on Dub Club, helping us keep the lights on here. That would be very helpful. So check that out if you have not yet. But now we will get to, again, one of our top picks, the game of the night, the best game on the docket, the one everyone's looking forward to, Baylor and Gonzaga, the Zags, top 10 according to Sideline, Baylor, top 20. Should be a fantastic contest. Gonzaga, slight favorite. Sideline agrees with them being slight favorites at home. Instead of taking a side, though, we're going to go over 156 A grade as the model thinks this game has a likelier chance of getting into the low 160s. Jake, this is a game to me that feels like if it was in conference play, would be one where I'd be very scared to go over because both teams would feel each other out and maybe start slow or halftime adjustments or whatever. But Baylor in non-conference tends to let things fly a little bit more. Scott Drew seems to just try to figure out what he's got and isn't quite as concerned about slamming on the brakes. Gonzaga, as we know, never wants to slam on the brakes. All offense, no defense, as you can see, according to Sideline, projected to be the second best offense in the country in a defense that's good, but not anywhere near the level of these other units. And so to me, the fact this is a non-conference game, what I've seen from Baylor in the non-conference, this is the type of thing you love going over with them. Once you get to conference play, maybe let's rethink that because that slower pace really slows things down. But faster pace is what we're expecting here. And of course, Gonzaga at home wanting to play this in the, I don't know, pick a number, and they'd like to play in the 200s. What do they want to get, with their style? What do they really want to get up to? So we're going to go over 156 A grade play, one of our top plays of the night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. There's zero chance that I see a single play of this game. I'll be long asleep. But Jake, tell us your thoughts on what will be the game of the night that hopefully people will be able to stay awake and watch.
Like, this is going to go over simply because Gonzaga's pace is and style play, especially in where are they? Spokane, is that right? Mm-hmm. Especially when they're there, is so hard for teams to not play it. You see this even with St. Mary's, who is creepy crawly pace. They end up playing Gonzaga's place when they visit Gonzaga. It's just so hard that crowd gets into it. It's a very good basketball crowd. They bring an absolute terror to fans, and Baylor is very, very good team. I love the Jeremy Roach pickup. I think they were kind of missing a little bit of a true point guard last year. They had Ray J Dennis, but he was more of a score first kind of guy. Jeremy Roach is a true point guard who will score when needs to, but more than happy to sit around and quarterback the offense. I think Baylor's offense is going to be very good, especially with him at the helm. We already know what Gonzaga has. I mean, they pretty much brought back the whole team. Nimhard, when he's playing, is a world changer for Gonzaga. If Greg plays like he did at the end of the year, that him and EK combo is going to be nasty for anybody they play all year. It's one of the reasons why everybody's in love with this Gonzaga team. Assuming Greg keeps his pace, EK is a very, very solid player. Been really good since he was at Wyoming and was great at Gonzaga. It's just the only thing we hope here is the refs stay out of it, because otherwise it'll be just an absolutely fantastic game. Just let these guys play pickup basketball, and it should be the most fun you have all week.
And just the depth that Gonzaga has is incredible. Braden Smith, that was the kid from, was it Purdue? Is that the right one I'm thinking of?
No, he's still there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wrong. And then Huff is the other one who's expecting big things from Baylor, picking up the kid from Miami, Omir.
That is world
a,
changing
a,
player
a,
too.
a- yeah, a big guy down low, and of course Scott Drew loves his big guys down low, so that could create some really interesting post play as well.
Yep.
So this is the thing again when we talk about. I think the St. Mary's thing is a great comp. Not that Baylor ever tried to play kind of that style, but we saw Baylor in conference last year play a lot closer to St. Mary's than they did in the non-conference. And that's what they try to do. They try to get it to the big men. They try to slow it down, really work the clock, really on defense, play a little bit more pressure and force the other team deeper into the shot clock. In the conference games, they were doing that. And like I said, I love the St. Mary's comp because when those games, more times than not, when St. Mary's and Gonzaga play at St. Mary's, that's what happens. At St. Mary's, they're able to kind of control a little bit more, play a little bit more pressure defense, force Gonzaga to take an extra few seconds, right? Get it more into a grinded out type style. But when they go to Gonzaga, the game just completely flips and it's a whole lot quicker. And so you've got that aspect of the way the Zags can play at home. And again, the way we see Scott Drew in the non-conference, a little bit more interested. He's already won a national title. He's won multiple conference titles. At this point, he's more interested in seeing what he's got. He kind of lets the kids go play a little bit more freely there in the non-conference than again in the conference play. And so the fact that Baylor might try to slow it down a little bit. They want to win the game, but they aren't going to try to quite grind it out and really, ugly this game up. We think, getting, like you said, sucked in a little bit to Gonzaga's style of play should make this more fun. And so, again, we're going to go over 156 for the A grade top play to round this out. Again, reminder, multiple package options in the club. Go check that out if you have not yet. Sport specific, you've got an all access package that's got all sorts of goodies, all sorts of picks and information. And if you just want some picks, we've got a cheaper package for you for that. Links in the show description. Please check that out. Otherwise, though, Jake, as we head into day one of what promises to be a very profitable college basketball season, what are your parting words for our viewers?
Like I really got a question for you. I lost a lot of respect for Tony Bennett and how he retired. How did that sit with people that are not as tied into college basketball as I am? Because to me, that was 2 weeks beforehand after you signed that extension 6 months ago. It was just a disservice to the players, let alone the university.
Yeah, I think I'm of two minds of that personally. I think to some extent, and you have to always do what's best for you and your family, and so to some extent, I look at it and I say, yeah, if you realize it's not right for you, you have to make that right choice. On the other hand, you do have to. Your heart kind of goes out a little bit to the kids there and the situation there, that they were a little bit blindsided by that and expecting something a little bit different going forward and how that's affecting them. And so it's really tough. And I'm sure he was torn by it as well when you feel like you're kind of pulled in multiple directions. So I kind of view it more as a tough situation. If you're in a situation where you feel like you owe something to one side and then you feel like you owe something different to the other side, how do you handle it? And unfortunately, I'm not sure there's a great answer to that. And it's just I view it more of it's a tough situation, and I'm glad I didn't have to make that decision because I don't know how I would have been able to do it personally.
Yeah, I mean his reasons. I don't disagree with his reasoning. For like you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it with NIL. Totally fine. It was just 2 weeks before the year. You really handcuffed the university, and they have to go with your assistant. The players that you were promising with transfers or might be on their last year are no longer getting to play for the Tony Bennett that won a national championship. They're playing for an assistant coach that who knows who recruited them and all that. But that's neither here nor there. But also make sure to follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. We're doing giveaways with these ladder challenges. Only way to get yourself entered is the comment. So just make sure you keep up. See you there, get clips, free picks that are coming out, plus chances at winning some of our money.
Yeah, we got to day 5 of a ladder challenge here. We just kind of started this up, got to day 5. It was a lot of fun, and we'll see if we can hit another run like that. And if and when it'll happen eventually, we're gonna get 7 in a row, and we're gonna take that $1,000 payout and split it with one lucky person. So no reason not to check that out. See if you can again share some money with us as we do. And if not, winning a bunch of free picks in a row is always fun too. So we'll be doing that. I want to say semi-daily. Try to be daily. Like life happens. Sometimes weekends are a little bit harder, but for the most part, we'll try to get one out there on social media every day. So whether it's here on the YouTube Shorts, we'll drop some of those. We'll drop those as well. TikTok, Instagram, the platform formerly known as Twitter as well. You get a lot of options to hit us up on the social media. Your Dub Club gets you all the information, including our Discord chat. We have a lot of fun. All those links get in the show description. Otherwise, though, we thank you for watching. We wish you the best of luck. We hope you come back for the rest of this college basketball season. Reminds you that you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.